Genghis Khan's most savage torture techniques that crossed the line. Captain Arya Novik stood on the observation deck, staring out at the glowing nebula ahead. Her mind was not on the beauty of space, but on the report that had just arrived. The Tharkarn were real. She had read about them in old intelligence files, dismissed them as rumors, legends of a species so cruel they had conquered dozens of star systems through terror and psychological warfare. They were ruthless, cunning, and feared across galaxies. And now humans had stumbled directly into their territory. "Captain," said Lieutenant Ryan Solis, approaching with a tablet in hand, "we're on course for planet Vedra. Sensors show multiple alien fleets in orbit. They're heavily armed." Arya did not flinch. She had faced impossible odds before, but the Tharkarn were different. "How many ships?" she asked. "At least 20, possibly more," Ryan replied. His voice betrayed a hint of worry. "They're not just defending, they're waiting." Arya's gaze sharpened. Waiting. That word alone spoke volumes. The Tharkarn didn't rush into battle blindly. They studied, they calculated, and then they struck. Every story about them involved fear, deception, and overwhelming force. "They're trying to scare us," she said. "Fear is their weapon. We can't let them use it." "How do we fight fear, Captain?" asked Ryan quietly. Arya smiled faintly, the corners of her mouth lifting in a hint of confidence. "We fight it with what humans do best: ingenuity." The first sign of the Tharkarn came in bursts of light. Their ships moved with precision, glowing panels scanning the darkness like predatory eyes. They were larger than anything humans had ever built, each one a fortress of steel and energy shields. But Arya had a plan. She knew that direct combat would be suicidal. Survival depended on understanding the enemy first. "Divert all scanners to long-range observation," she ordered. "We need to know how they fight, not just what they look like." The crew worked quickly, adjusting sensors, tapping into frequencies that were meant to detect energy patterns, life signs, and tactical communications. Data flowed in streams of numbers and shapes, but it wasn't just technical information that Arya sought, it was psychological. The Tharkarn, she had learned, loved history. Not their own, but the legends of past conquerors. They studied the tactics of figures like Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great, and others, taking stories of fear and turning them into blueprints for terror. It was as if they wanted to understand human history to exploit human weakness. Ryan raised an eyebrow. "So they copy human conquerors," Arya nodded. "Exactly. And if they know the stories, they'll try to use them against us. We need to predict their next move." As the Aurora drifted closer to Vedra, tension filled the ship. The crew, trained and disciplined, still felt the weight of the unknown pressing down on them. In the mess hall, Ensign Lyra Hain tried to make small talk, but the words sounded hollow. "They say the Tharkarn have no mercy," she murmured, looking at the others. "Do you think it's true?" Petty Officer Jax Myro shook his head. "I don't know, but if they're anything like the reports say, we can't fight them head-on. We have to be smarter." Arya entered the room, her presence commanding attention. "Exactly," she said. "And smarter doesn't mean brutal, it means clever. Humanity has something no one else does: creativity, teamwork, and the ability to adapt. That's how we survive." Her words settled over the crew like a calm wind. Fear still lingered, but hope, real hope, was planted. Orbiting Vedra, the Tharkarn fleet waited. The humans watched through observation windows as massive ships glided into formation. Lights flashed across the hulls and energy fields shimmered. It was mesmerizing, almost hypnotic. And then the humans realized the first part of the Tharkarn strategy: intimidation. The alien ships began synchronized maneuvers, circling the planet like predators around a prey animal. Each movement was precise, deliberate, and unnerving. It was as if the Tharkarn wanted the humans to understand just how small and powerless they were. "They're testing us," Arya whispered. "They want to see our reaction." Ryan's fingers tapped nervously on the console. "What do we do?" Arya's eyes narrowed. We do what humans do best. We improvise. The first encounter came at dusk, with Vedra's twin suns casting long shadows across the planet. A Tharkarn scout ship dropped out of warp and approached the Aurora. It was enormous, bristling with weaponry, but Arya did not panic. She ordered the ship's cloaking system activated and prepared a small shuttle to investigate. The shuttle moved silently, carrying a small team to intercept the scout. As they approached, sensors revealed the alien interior, a labyrinth of chambers filled with strange technology, displays showing historical battles, and holograms depicting legendary human conquerors. "It's true," whispered Lyra. "They study us, or at least they study history about us." Arya examined the holograms carefully. Each display showed humans being outwitted or trapped by historical tactics, ambushes, feigned retreats, psychological warfare. And each one was annotated in alien script, showing how they intended to improve upon the lessons. "They think fear is a weapon," Arya said, "but they don't understand humans. We don't just fight with fear, we fight with brains, with courage, with unity." The shuttle returned to the Aurora, carrying valuable data. The crew analyzed it immediately, finding patterns in the Tharkarn strategies, weaknesses that could be exploited, and opportunities for countermeasures. Humanity had gained knowledge, and knowledge was power. But the Tharkarn were patient. That evening, the Aurora received a transmission, not words but images. Humans from other outposts, captured and displayed, surrounded by alien weaponry. It was a warning, a psychological strike meant to intimidate. The crew felt the weight of the message. Fear crept in. Arya faced her crew, calm but firm. "They want us to panic," she said. "They want us to make mistakes. We won't. Tonight we study them, we learn them, and tomorrow we show them that humans are not prey. We are predators in our own way." Her words sparked a fire in the crew's hearts. The fear that had threatened to paralyze them transformed into determination. They were humans. They survived against impossible odds. They adapted. And now they faced an enemy who underestimated them. The stars outside seemed darker, colder, but Arya felt a strange warmth. Hope was a powerful weapon, and humans wielded it better than any Tharkarn could. As the first part of the battle approached, the Aurora orbited silently, ready for the unknown. Captain Arya Novik stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the alien fleet. Her mind raced with possibilities, strategies, and contingencies. Every human on board felt it, the weight of the challenge and the thrill of the fight to come. The Tharkarn believed humans were weak. That would be their first mistake. And in the dark expanse of space, humanity prepared to show what cunning, courage, and unity could achieve. The game had begun. The Aurora hummed softly as it floated in orbit above Vedra, the alien fleet still circling the planet like a storm waiting to break. Inside, the human crew worked tirelessly. The tension from the previous day had not faded, but instead of fear, there was determination. Captain Arya Novik paced the bridge, her mind already planning the next move. "Captain," Lieutenant Ryan Soley said, eyes fixed on the main console, "the Tharkarn are sending out multiple drone scouts now. They're probing our defenses. It's like they want to know exactly how we react before they attack." Arya didn't flinch. She had expected this. "Good," she said. "Let them look. Let them think they understand us. Humans aren't predictable. That's our advantage." The crew exchanged glances. Some nodded, some still looked worried, but Arya's confidence was infectious. She had faced worse odds in training exercises that simulated full-scale attacks. The difference here was that the enemy was real, intelligent, and terrifying, but they were still aliens. And humans had a unique ability. They could think differently, adapt, and improvise. The first step in Arya's plan was observation. She gathered a small team in the tactical room, a circular chamber filled with screens, maps, and holographic projectors. The team included Ryan, Lyra Hain, Petty Officer Jax Miro, and the ship's AI called Helix. The Tharkarn rely on fear and deception, Arya explained, pointing to the holographic projection of the alien fleet. They study human history, especially the stories of conquerors like Genghis Khan. They think that by understanding fear, they can control us. Lyra frowned. So they know our weaknesses before we even act. Not all of them, Arya replied. They understand tactics, but they don't understand creativity, teamwork, or improvisation. Those are human strengths. That's what we'll use against them. Ryan tapped on the console. I've mapped out their drone patterns. They move in predictable loops, but the drones can detect small disturbances. Any mistake and they'll know we're hiding something. Arya nodded. Exactly. That's why we can't just fight them head-on. We need a distraction, something they don't expect. The plan was simple in theory but dangerous in execution. Using the Aurora's cloaking system, a small shuttle would launch toward the nearest Tharkarn fleet, carrying a reconnaissance team to gather detailed intel about their weapons and systems. The humans would need to stay hidden, move fast, and return without being detected. The shuttle's engines ignited with a soft hum. Arya, Ryan, and Lyra were aboard, their faces set with determination. As the craft left the safety of the Aurora, the alien drones moved closer, scanning the space ahead with bright pulses of energy. Every second counted. Lyra gripped the controls. I can't believe we're doing this, she muttered. Arya gave her a reassuring look. That's exactly why we can do it. Fear slows people down. Courage and focus speed them up. Remember that. The shuttle approached the lead Tharkarn ship. It was massive, bristling with weapons and glowing with alien energy. The humans could see the faint outlines of alien crew members moving through transparent sections of the hull. Holographic displays inside the ship projected historical battles, tactics, and simulations. The aliens studied humanity's past, analyzing how fear had influenced decisions in war. It's even worse than the reports, whispered Ryan. They're obsessed. Arya's eyes scanned the readings. Let them be obsessed. Obsession makes them predictable. They think the patterns of fear will work every time. They haven't faced humans using strategy and creativity at the same time. The team deployed small drones of their own, equipped with scanners and stealth technology. They moved through the alien ship, recording data, mapping internal systems, and discovering weak points in the ship's shields and weapon systems. This is incredible, said Lyra quietly. We're seeing everything, Arya nodded, and soon we'll use it. Back on the Aurora, Helix analyzed the incoming data. The AI projected simulations of different countermeasures and escape routes. Every pattern, every anomaly, every weakness was logged. Arya studied the projections and smiled. Humanity had a plan, and the Tharkarn didn't even know it was coming. Hours later, the shuttle returned. The crew was tense but triumphant. They had successfully gathered the information without triggering any alarms. The Aurora hummed with quiet energy as the data was downloaded and processed. This changes everything, Ryan said. We can predict their moves now. Arya nodded. And more than that, we can force them to react to us instead of the other way around. That night the crew gathered in the mess hall. Tension had eased slightly, replaced with cautious optimism. Humans had survived the first encounter and even gained intelligence. It was a small victory, but one that mattered. Jax leaned back in his chair. So, what now? We wait for them to attack. No, Arya said firmly. We act. We can't just hide and hope they make mistakes. Humans survive by creating opportunities, not waiting for them. The crew murmured agreement. Even the youngest members understood the truth in her words. Humans had faced impossible odds before on Earth and beyond. Adaptability was their gift. Creativity was their weapon. Arya continued, We'll use what we've learned about the Tharkarn to create distractions, traps, and countermeasures. We'll make them think they're controlling the situation. But in reality, the situation will be ours. The first step of the counter-strategy began at dawn. Using decoy drones and holographic projections, the humans created the illusion of a fleet moving in multiple directions. The Tharkarn detected the fleet and responded immediately, dividing their forces and leaving gaps in their formation. Ryan monitored the reactions. "They're taking the bait," he said, a note of excitement in his voice. "They're reacting exactly as we predicted." Arya smiled. "Humans are unpredictable in ways they can't calculate. That's the advantage we have. Fear isn't a weapon against us when we understand it." The plan worked beautifully. The Tharkarn sent several ships to investigate the decoys, leaving the main fleet vulnerable. Using the intel from the reconnaissance mission, humans targeted the weak points in the alien shields with precise strikes. The attacks were small but effective, demonstrating that humans could outthink and outmaneuver a superior enemy. As the day ended, the humans returned to the Aurora, exhausted but exhilarated. They had done the impossible, struck fear into the feared, outsmarted the seemingly unbeatable, and survived. Arya stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The Tharkarn fleet still orbited Vedra, but the balance had shifted, even if slightly. Humans had proven that courage, ingenuity, and teamwork could overcome even the most terrifying adversaries. Ryan joined her. "Do you really think we can beat them?" he asked quietly. Arya smiled. "We don't just beat them by fighting. We beat them by being humans, clever, resourceful, and united. They can be savage, but we are something more, adaptable, determined, and unbreakable. That's how humans survive." The stars outside seemed brighter now, filled with endless possibilities. Humanity had faced a predator in the darkness and had survived, not just with weapons, but with brains, courage, and unity. And in that moment, every human on board knew one truth. They were no longer just explorers drifting through space. They were fighters, strategists, survivors, and the galaxy had only just begun to see the power of human ingenuity. The Tharkarn had underestimated them, and that mistake would be remembered. The real battle was yet to come. The stars stretched endlessly before the Aurora, black and silent, as if holding its breath. Captain Arya Novik stood at the bridge, hands resting lightly on the railing, eyes fixed on the Tharkarn fleet still orbiting Vedra. Every human aboard the ship could feel the tension, but it was no longer the terror of the unknown. Now, it was the quiet thrill of opportunity. "Captain," Lieutenant Ryan Soley said, tapping on the console, "I've run simulations on our next move. The Tharkarn are reacting exactly how we expected. Their fleet is divided. Their drones are patrolling predictable loops. We have a chance to strike a calculated blow." Arya nodded, a small smile playing across her lips. "Good. That's exactly what we need. Humans aren't strongest when they fight blindly. We're strongest when we think, when we adapt, when we turn the enemy's expectations against them." "Turning the tables," murmured Ensign Lyra Hain, eyes wide with excitement. "You really think we can do that?" Arya looked at her and smiled, gently but firmly. "We already are, we just have to follow the plan." The first phase involved deception. Using the intel gathered from their reconnaissance mission, humans created a complex network of holographic decoys. Each projection mimicked a small fleet, appearing to move toward the Tharkarn ships from multiple angles. Sensors picked up on the movements, and as expected, the Tharkarn responded immediately, sending multiple ships to intercept the decoys. "Exactly as predicted," Ryan said, almost grinning. "They're falling for it." "Not falling," Arya corrected. "Reacting. And when they react, they reveal themselves." The humans waited. Patience was critical. One misstep and the Tharkarn could discover the truth and retaliate with devastating force. But the aliens moved confidently, believing they controlled the situation. This was the essence of the strategy. Let the Tharkarn believe they were in control, while humans quietly analyzed their weaknesses and planned a precise strike. Meanwhile, the shuttle team worked tirelessly on minor sabotage missions. Small, stealthy strikes targeted the alien communication nodes and energy relays. Nothing destructive enough to start a full battle, but just enough to slow the Tharkarn and introduce confusion. Ensign Lyra Hain operated the controls with steady hands, sending miniature drones through maintenance tunnels. The hum of the shuttle and the soft beeps of the drones filled the air. Each drone carefully scanned the alien interior, mapping weak points, energy flows, and weapon systems. "We're in their shadows," Lyra whispered almost to herself, "and they don't even know it." Petty Officer Jack Smyro, sitting beside her, nodded. "Exactly. That's the advantage humans have. We can think, adapt, and act when the enemy expects nothing." Back on the Aurora, Captain Novik coordinated the larger operation. The holographic map of the Tharkarn fleet displayed the effects of the decoys and sabotage. Ships were out of position, shields flickered in response to minor strikes, and alien drones flitted back and forth in confusion. "Now," Arya said, her voice firm, "we move to Phase 2, precision strikes. We hit the weakest points we've discovered and force them to scatter. We don't just attack, we manipulate, control, and outthink them." Ryan's fingers danced across the console, locking targeting solutions, calculating approach vectors. "Shields and weapons are ready." Arya nodded, a steely calm settling over her. "Remember, humans aren't just fighting with weapons. We're fighting with brains, strategy, and courage. That's what makes us unpredictable." The first strike was small but effective. Using precise targeting, the humans disabled a group of Tharkarn ships without destroying them. Energy surges flickered across the enemy shields, and drones scrambled to respond. The alien fleet began to shift positions, attempting to protect the weakened ships. Ryan monitored the results with satisfaction. "They're reacting exactly as we expected." "They're reorganizing, leaving gaps elsewhere." Arya smiled. "Good. Now we widen those gaps." The humans' next move was clever. They used the decoy drones again, this time appearing from a different angle and creating the illusion of a much larger fleet than actually existed. The Tharkarn, convinced that an overwhelming force approached, diverted more ships to intercept the phantom threat. This left their primary formation vulnerable to precise, coordinated attacks by the humans. In the midst of the action, Captain Novik reflected on what made humans unique. Aliens like the Tharkarn could be terrifying, brutal, and smart, but they were limited by rigid expectations. Humans, on the other hand, could innovate, improvise, and act unpredictably. That unpredictability, coupled with courage and teamwork, made them dangerous in ways the Tharkarn could not anticipate. "We don't just survive," Arya thought. "We adapt and strike where it hurts the most. That's how humans thrive." Her reflection was interrupted by a warning light. "Captain," Ryan shouted, "an incoming Tharkarn strike craft. They've noticed some of the drones. It's a trap." "Exactly what I wanted," Arya said calmly. "Let them come. They're walking into our advantage." The Tharkarn strike craft approached quickly, their energy weapons glowing ominously. But the humans were ready. Using the knowledge from the reconnaissance mission, they predicted the alien craft's path and created a trap using decoy drones and energy field distortions. As the Tharkarn ships fired, their beams struck the decoys, leaving them vulnerable to a precise counterattack. Humans disabled two strike craft in rapid succession, sending the others fleeing back to the main fleet. The crew cheered quietly, careful not to attract attention from sensors outside. Even small victories mattered when facing such a formidable enemy. Captain Novik knew this was only the beginning. The Tharkarn would not surrender, and their next moves would be more aggressive. But humans had learned something crucial. Fear could be studied, countered, and turned into a weapon. By understanding the enemy and acting creatively, humans could dictate the flow of battle, even when outnumbered. Arya turned to her crew. "Remember this," she said firmly. "The Tharkarn are dangerous because they believe fear is everything. But humans are more than fear. We are strategy, ingenuity, and teamwork. They can be savage, but we can be smarter, faster, and braver." Her words settled over the crew like a shield. They had already seen what human ingenuity could do. They had faced the enemy and turned the tide. Now, they believed in their own power. The night passed with careful monitoring, drills, and planning. The humans had learned much about the Tharkarn's methods, and they were preparing for the next stage of the conflict. Every sensor reading, every simulation, every minor victory strengthened their confidence. Outside, the alien fleet continued its orbit, unaware of the full extent of human preparation. Inside the Aurora, humans moved like a single organism, coordinated, focused, and ready. Their understanding of the enemy, combined with their adaptability, made them unpredictable and dangerous. By dawn, Captain Novik knew the time was coming to escalate. Humans were no longer merely reacting. They were in control of the battlefield. Every move they made now had purpose, and every strike would be calculated to exploit the Tharkarn's weaknesses. As she looked out at the stars, Arya felt a surge of pride. Humanity had turned the tables on an enemy that was supposed to be invincible. And this was just the beginning. The Tharkarn believed humans were prey. They had learned the hard way that humans were predators too, predators with brains, courage, and unbreakable unity. And the galaxy was about to witness the full power of human ingenuity. The calm on the Aurora was deceptive. Captain Arya Novik knew better than anyone that patience in space was dangerous. The Tharkarn, though clever, were also relentless. After the humans' small victories and clever strikes, the aliens would be back, and they would strike harder. "Captain," Lieutenant Ryan Solis said, pointing at the sensor display, "multiple Tharkarn ships are moving in from the northern quadrant. Their fleet has reorganized, and I suspect they've learned from our previous attacks. They're coming with full force." Arya didn't flinch. The information only confirmed what she had expected. "Good," she said. "Let them come. We've prepared for this. Remember, humans survive by thinking, by adapting, and by working together. This is our moment." The crew stiffened, eyes on the glowing displays, adrenaline rising. The Tharkarn were known for their savagery, but Arya reminded herself, and everyone aboard, that humans had something the aliens lacked: creativity under pressure. The first wave of Tharkarn strike ships entered the system. They were faster and more numerous than anything humans had faced before. Energy weapons glowed, engines hummed, and every sensor screamed warning after warning. "Status report," Arya demanded. Ryan's fingers flew over the console. "Shields are at 75%. Weapons systems ready. Holographic decoys deployed along multiple vectors. They're targeting our decoys first." Arya nodded. "Perfect. Let them focus on illusions. That's exactly what we want." The humans had set traps throughout the battle space. Using intelligence gathered from previous reconnaissance, they positioned stealth drones near key gravitational anomalies around Vedra. These anomalies could distort sensor readings, creating perfect ambush points. "Those ships don't expect humans to use the environment," Arya said to Ryan and Lyra. "They rely on numbers and fear. We rely on brains and strategy. That difference will win this fight." As the Tharkarn ships approached, the humans activated the first trap. Stealth drones created a fake energy signature, making a portion of the fleet appear vulnerable. The Tharkarn, confident in their calculations, advanced to strike. "Now," Arya shouted. Energy pulses erupted from hidden human positions. The alien ships were caught in crossfire, their shields flickering under precise strikes. One by one, the Tharkarn were forced to retreat or risk destruction. The humans had taken advantage of their predictable aggression. The battle was not just in space, it was psychological. Captain Novik monitored communications between the alien vessels, noting their frustration and confusion. The Tharkarn had expected humans to flee, to panic, or to fight blindly. Instead, the humans were calculating, organized, and daring. "They're angry," Lyra whispered. "They didn't expect this," Arya smiled. "Good, anger makes them reckless. That's when we can exploit them further. Ryan adjusted targeting systems. Secondary ambush ready. They're trying to regroup, but our drones are feeding false data. They think our fleet is weaker than it is. Arya's strategy was working perfectly. The Tharkarn were powerful, but they were overconfident. They underestimated the humans' ability to adapt, improvise, and manipulate the battlefield. The Tharkarn retaliated with a concentrated attack on the Aurora. Energy beams sliced through the void, and shields flared under the pressure. The crew moved with practiced precision, diverting power, recalibrating shields, and managing weapon systems. Every human aboard was essential, every action counted. "Hold steady," Arya instructed. "Focus. We've done this before and we can do it again." Despite the chaos, the humans remained calm. Unlike the aliens, they were not slaves to fear or aggression. They thought, coordinated, and struck with precision. Small strikes disabled multiple enemy ships' engines, forcing them into erratic patterns and causing collisions that further weakened the enemy fleet. In the midst of the battle, Arya made a crucial decision. A cluster of Tharkarn battleships had gathered near a gravitational anomaly, attempting to flank the Aurora. She directed the crew to use the anomaly to their advantage. "Align the decoys here," she ordered, pointing at the tactical map. "Make it look like we're vulnerable. Let them think they've cornered us." The Tharkarn advanced, expecting an easy strike. Instead, the humans activated hidden drones inside the anomaly, which fired coordinated bursts that disabled shields and engines simultaneously. Ships that had been confident moments before now struggled to maintain control, colliding or retreating in disarray. "Excellent," Ryan said, a rare smile breaking his tense expression. "They don't know what hit them." Arya nodded. "That's the power of strategy, teamwork, and thinking like humans." But the Tharkarn were relentless. They launched a final wave, the largest yet. Dozens of ships surged forward, energy weapons blazing. The Aurora rocked under the assault, warning sirens screaming. "Brace for impact," Arya shouted. The humans had anticipated this. Using precise calculations, they created a series of evasive maneuvers that took advantage of the enemy's overconfidence. Small strike teams targeted weak points, while the main fleet used decoys to divide and confuse the attackers. Despite being outnumbered, humans fought with skill and coordination. Every action was deliberate, every move was part of a larger plan. They didn't just survive, they turned the chaos into opportunity. Hours passed. The Tharkarn, frustrated and battered, began to retreat. The humans, exhausted but triumphant, surveyed the results. Multiple alien ships were disabled, their formation broken. The Aurora had sustained minor damage, but nothing critical. Captain Novik allowed herself a small moment of relief. "We've done it," she said quietly. "We've survived, and we've taught them a lesson." Ryan shook his head in disbelief. "They're powerful, but we outsmarted them. I never thought humans could do this against such a force." Arya looked at her crew, pride shining in her eyes. "This is what humans do. We survive by adapting. We thrive by thinking. They are strong, yes, but they are predictable in their aggression. And that's where we excel." Later, in the quiet of the observation deck, Arya reflected on the battle. The Tharkarn were formidable, but humans had something no alien species could replicate: ingenuity, courage, and unity. By understanding the enemy and exploiting their weaknesses, humans had turned near defeat into a significant advantage. She thought of every crew member, each playing a role in the battle. Lyra's steady hands on the drones, Ryan's calculations, Jax's calm precision in navigation, and every supporting member who kept the ship running under fire. Humans had acted as one, and that unity had been more powerful than any weapon. "We've shown them what it means to face humanity," she whispered, "not just as soldiers or explorers, but as strategists, innovators, and survivors." The Tharkarn, for all their savagery, had been forced to acknowledge a simple truth: humans could not be intimidated or controlled by fear. They were unpredictable, intelligent, and united. As the Aurora regrouped and repaired, Arya prepared the crew for the next stage. The Tharkarn would recover, but humans had gained a psychological edge. The enemy now knew that humans were more than mere prey. They were adversaries capable of turning the tide against the most feared conquerors in the galaxy. Arya looked out at Vedra below, its twin suns casting long shadows across the planet's surface. Humanity had survived the storm and emerged stronger. The galaxy was beginning to see what she already knew. Humans were clever, adaptable, and unstoppable when united. And though the battle was far from over, Captain Novik and her crew felt a surge of pride. The Aurora had survived, and humanity had once again proven that courage, strategy, and ingenuity could triumph over even the most savage enemy. The stars outside were no longer just distant lights. They were challenges, waiting to be met by a species that refused to be defeated. Humanity had survived the Tharkarn counterstrike, and the universe would remember it. The Aurora drifted through the calm of space, yet tension filled every corridor. Captain Arya Novik stood on the bridge, eyes scanning the distant Tharkarn fleet. After the savage counterstrike, the aliens were regrouping, but Arya knew they had already lost more than just ships. They had lost confidence. Humanity had proven they were not prey. "Captain," Lieutenant Ryan Soley said, fingers flying across the console, "the Tharkarn are attempting to consolidate their remaining fleet near the asteroid belt. They're trying to regroup for a final strike." Arya nodded. "Good. That's exactly where we want them. Prepare the fleet for our offensive." The humans had learned much from every encounter with the Tharkarn. Every maneuver, every deception, every small victory had been carefully recorded, analyzed, and applied. Now it was time to act decisively. The plan was audacious. The humans would use the asteroid belt as cover to approach the enemy fleet undetected. Hidden among the massive rocks and icy debris, small strike teams would target the Tharkarn's command ships, disabling communications and shields. Once the fleet was disoriented, the Aurora and its allied vessels would move in for a coordinated attack, exploiting every weakness. Ryan's eyes widened as he input the coordinates. "This is risky, Captain. If we're detected early, it could be catastrophic." Arya's gaze was steady. "Risk is part of victory. Humans survive because we are willing to think differently, to take chances the enemy doesn't expect. Trust in the plan and trust in each other." The Aurora and its supporting ships slipped into the asteroid belt like shadows, the Tharkarn fleet unaware of the humans hiding in plain sight. The silence of space was broken only by the faint hum of engines and the occasional beep from sensors. Lyra Haynes' hands were steady on the controls, guiding the shuttle through tight gaps between massive asteroids. "I can't believe this is working," she whispered. "It works because humans think," Arya said softly. "We adapt, we survive, that's what makes us dangerous." From their hidden positions, the strike teams launched small, precise drones toward the enemy's command ships. The drones moved like silent predators, bypassing sensors and disabling shields one by one. The Tharkarn crews scrambled, trying to understand what was happening. "They don't know where the attacks are coming from," Ryan said, excitement and tension mingling in his voice. "We've completely disoriented them." The Aurora advanced slowly but deliberately, cloaked and ready. Captain Novik watched the holographic map as the Tharkarn ships faltered. For all their strength and cunning, the aliens were vulnerable when they couldn't predict human actions. "Phase 2, Arya said, her voice calm but commanding. "Once their command ships are offline, we move in with full force. Strike hard, strike smart." The humans coordinated flawlessly. Small teams disabled weapons and communications while larger ships prepared for the main attack. Every crew member, from engineers to gunners, acted with precision. Humans were not just fighting, they were orchestrating a symphony of strategy, exploiting every weakness with intelligence and courage. The first major strike hit like lightning. Hidden energy pulses from the drones caused multiple Tharkarn shields to collapse. Their fleet, once confident and intimidating, now faltered in chaos. Energy beams collided with disabled ships, sending debris scattering across the asteroid belt. Ryan cheered quietly. "It's working, they're breaking apart." Arya's gaze remained steady. "Stay focused. This is only the beginning. Humans finish what they start, and we finish this fight right." The Tharkarn, realizing the depth of human strategy, attempted to regroup, but it was too late. Their command ships were offline, shields were failing, and their crews were confused and scattered. "Now!" Arya shouted. The Aurora and allied human ships surged forward. Coordinated attacks targeted the remaining operational ships, exploiting weak points revealed by reconnaissance. The Tharkarn fired desperately, but humans anticipated every move, countering with precision and coordination. Inside the Tharkarn flagship, confusion and panic spread. Alien commanders barked orders, but without communication networks, coordination failed. Energy beams misfired, ships collided, and small skirmishes turned into larger disasters. Humans, with their adaptability and cunning, moved like a single organism, striking where the enemy least expected. Lyra watched from the observation deck as entire formations faltered. They can't fight back effectively," she said, awe in her voice. Arya nodded. "Humans are strongest when we work together, think differently, and stay calm under pressure. That's why we survive where others fail." The battle raged for hours, but the outcome had already shifted. The Tharkarn were powerful, but humans were relentless. They used strategy, ingenuity, and unity to turn fear into opportunity. Every failed attack, every miscalculated move by the Tharkarn only strengthened humanity's position. Captain Novak allowed herself a brief moment of reflection. Humanity had faced monsters in the past, literal and metaphorical. On Earth, humans had survived against nature, against rivals, and against history itself. Now, in the cold expanse of space, they had done it again. Their courage, intelligence, and ability to adapt had turned a desperate situation into victory. Finally, the Tharkarn began retreating. Their fleet was shattered, their command structure destroyed, and their morale broken. The humans, though exhausted, had achieved the impossible. They had survived against one of the most feared alien species in the galaxy, and had inflicted a strategic defeat that would be remembered for generations. Ryan let out a long breath. "We did it. We really did it." Arya looked at him and then at the rest of the crew. "No," she said firmly, "we didn't just survive. We proved what humanity can do. We showed that courage, intelligence, and teamwork are more powerful than fear and brute force. That is why humans thrive." Later on the observation deck, Captain Novak reflected on the journey. From the first terrifying encounter with the Tharkarn to the final decisive battle, humans had faced fear, adversity, and overwhelming odds. And yet, they had prevailed. Not through savagery, not through cruelty, but through strategy, innovation, and unity. "The galaxy will remember this," Arya whispered. "Not because we were the strongest, but because we were clever, adaptable, and brave. That is the true power of humanity." She turned to look at the stars, each one a distant world waiting to be explored. Humanity had survived the Tharkarn, but this victory was only the beginning. Across the cosmos, countless challenges awaited, but humans had proven they could face them and emerge triumphant. The crew gathered in the mess hall for a quiet celebration. They shared stories, laughter, and quiet relief. Each member knew that the bond they had formed, the trust and cooperation that had carried them through the battle, was the true victory. Weapons and technology mattered, but they were nothing without human courage and unity. Lyra raised a glass of water. "To humanity," she said softly, "and to never giving up." Arya smiled and nodded. "To humanity, we survive, we adapt, we thrive." The crew echoed the sentiment. It was a small moment, but it captured everything they had accomplished. Humans could face fear, think beyond the obvious, and emerge victorious even when outnumbered and outgunned. That was the essence of what it meant to be human. As the Aurora prepared to leave orbit and continue its journey through the galaxy, Captain Novik looked ahead with determination. The Tharkarn had been defeated, but countless other challenges awaited. Humanity had proven its worth, and the galaxy would never again underestimate the strength of humans. The stars stretched endlessly before them, each one a promise of adventure, challenge, and opportunity. And humanity, clever, brave, and united, would rise to meet them all. Captain Novik took a deep breath, feeling the weight of leadership, responsibility, and hope. Humanity had triumphed against one of the most feared conquerors in the galaxy, not with terror, but with intelligence, strategy, and courage. The universe had witnessed the power of humans, and this was only the beginning.